Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, where you receive real and authentic updates about the Iraqi dinar. If you want to stay informed with moment-by-moment developments, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Today, we are taking a closer look at recent commentary suggesting that public awareness inside Iraq is becoming increasingly important to the future of the Iraqi dinar, while also examining claims that changes in supply and demand could strengthen the currency over time. As always, our goal is to separate opinion from verifiable economic principles, explain what these ideas could mean for Iraqi dinar followers, and provide balanced analysis based on how currencies typically function in real-world financial markets. The commentary being discussed emphasizes a central idea rather than announcing an officially confirmed policy. The main argument is that educating Iraqi citizens about the national currency is a necessary step before any significant monetary developments can occur. This perspective suggests that successful monetary reform is not simply about decisions made by a country's central bank or government. Instead, it also depends on whether the public understands, accepts, and participates in the process. While this is an opinion rather than an official statement from Iraqi authorities, it does highlight an important economic principle that applies to many countries throughout history. Whenever a nation considers reforms involving its currency, public confidence becomes one of the most valuable assets. Citizens need to understand how the banking system operates, why monetary reforms are taking place, and how those changes affect their daily lives. Without sufficient public confidence, even well-designed financial reforms can encounter unnecessary challenges. This is why financial education campaigns are commonly used around the world whenever governments introduce major economic initiatives. In Iraq's case, financial inclusion has become an increasingly important topic over recent years. Authorities have repeatedly discussed expanding electronic payments, encouraging citizens to use formal banking services, reducing reliance on cash transactions, and modernizing the country's financial infrastructure. These efforts are generally viewed as part of broader economic reforms intended to strengthen Iraq's banking sector and improve transparency within the economy. The commentary also mentions that knowledge has been conveyed to the citizens of Iraq and suggests that this educational process must succeed. While viewers should understand that this reflects an analyst's opinion rather than confirmed government policy, the underlying concept deserves careful examination. Economic reforms often require cooperation between governments, commercial banks, businesses, and ordinary citizens. If any one of these groups lacks confidence or sufficient understanding, implementation becomes more difficult. Consider how currency reforms have unfolded in other countries. Public communication frequently accompanies changes in banking regulations, payment systems, taxation procedures, or monetary policy. Citizens need time to adapt. Businesses require preparation. Banks must update systems. Government agencies coordinate implementation. None of these developments occur overnight, and successful reforms generally involve extensive planning before any visible changes occur. Another important point raised in the commentary concerns supply and demand. This is one of the most fundamental concepts in economics. Every currency, whether it belongs to a major global economy or a developing nation, is influenced in some way by supply and demand. However, the factors affecting supply and demand differ depending on whether a currency is freely floating, tightly managed, or operates under a different exchange rate system. For Iraq, the official exchange rate is influenced by the country's monetary authorities and broader economic policies. This means market forces alone do not determine the currency's official value in the same way they might for some freely floating currencies. Nevertheless, supply and demand still play meaningful roles within financial markets, particularly regarding demand for local currency inside the domestic economy and foreign exchange activity. When analysts discuss increasing demand for the Iraqi dinar, they are generally referring to scenarios in which more people, businesses, or financial institutions choose to hold or transact using the national currency. Stronger confidence in the banking sector, higher economic activity, improved investment conditions, increased domestic production, and successful financial reforms can all contribute to stronger demand over time. On the supply side, policymakers attempt to manage liquidity carefully. Central banks around the world monitor money supply because excessive expansion can contribute to inflation, while insufficient liquidity may slow economic activity. Achieving the right balance is one of the most important responsibilities of any central bank. The commentary suggests that supply and demand will cause the dinar to gain strength. While this statement expresses optimism, it should not be interpreted as confirmation that appreciation is guaranteed or imminent. Currency movements depend on numerous variables simultaneously: oil revenues, government spending, inflation, foreign investment, fiscal discipline, banking reforms, geopolitical stability, foreign exchange reserves, and international trade all interact to influence long-term currency performance. Because Iraq remains one of the world's significant oil-producing nations, developments in global energy markets also influence the country's economic outlook. Higher oil revenues generally improve government finances, allowing increased public investment, infrastructure development, and reserve accumulation. Conversely, periods of lower oil prices can place pressure on fiscal planning. Therefore, oil market conditions remain an important component when evaluating Iraq's overall economic health. Foreign exchange reserves also deserve attention. Strong reserve levels provide central banks with greater flexibility when managing exchange rate stability. They help support confidence among investors and international financial institutions, while providing resources that may be used to stabilize markets during periods of volatility. Economists often view healthy reserves as one indicator of macroeconomic resilience. Another aspect worth discussing is banking reform. Iraq has spent years working toward modernization of its financial system. Digital payment expansion, improvements in compliance standards, stronger banking supervision, and greater integration with international financial practices all contribute toward building confidence in the country's financial institutions. These reforms may not immediately alter exchange rates, but they can strengthen the overall financial environment over the long term. The commentary also references expectations regarding the US dollar exchange rate after the 10th of the month, suggesting the dollar rate could decline while the dinar gains strength. It is important for viewers to understand that this represents a forecast made by the commentator, rather than an officially confirmed policy announcement. Exchange rate expectations frequently circulate within financial communities, but actual outcomes depend on decisions by monetary authorities and evolving economic conditions. Investors and currency followers should distinguish between opinion, analysis, and official confirmation. Analysts often interpret economic signals differently, leading to varying forecasts. Some emphasize banking reforms, others focus on oil markets. Still others concentrate on fiscal policy or geopolitical developments. None of these perspectives alone guarantees future currency performance. This distinction is especially important in online discussions surrounding the Iraqi dinar. The internet contains a wide range of opinions, predictions, and interpretations. Some analyses are grounded in established economic principles, while others rely heavily on speculation. Responsible viewers benefit from evaluating information critically, considering official statements alongside broader economic data, rather than relying on any single forecast. For Iraqi citizens themselves, confidence in the national currency carries practical significance. A trusted domestic currency encourages savings within local banks, facilitates business transactions, supports investment planning, and contributes to financial stability. When households and businesses have confidence in their banking system, economic activity often becomes more efficient. Confidence, however, cannot simply be declared. It develops gradually through consistent policy implementation, stable institutions, transparent governance, and predictable monetary management. These characteristics are typically built over years, rather than weeks or months. That is why many economists emphasize patience when evaluating structural reforms. One interesting aspect of the commentary is the suggestion that educating citizens today may support developments months later. From a purely economic perspective, there is logic behind preparing the public before implementing major reforms. Governments often communicate with citizens well in advance of policy changes, so individuals and businesses have time to understand new procedures. This does not necessarily indicate that any particular monetary event is imminent, but it reflects common administrative practice in many countries. The relationship between education and financial stability should not be underestimated. Financial literacy helps consumers make informed decisions, regarding banking services, electronic payments, savings accounts, lending products, and investment opportunities. Improved financial understanding also supports broader economic participation. For international observers following Iraq's economy, the broader reform picture remains more important than isolated predictions. Progress in infrastructure development, diversification beyond oil, private sector expansion, anti-corruption initiatives, banking modernization, and improvements in regulatory frameworks all contribute to the country's long-term economic potential. Many analysts believe Iraq possesses significant economic opportunities due to its natural resources, geographic location, and relatively young population. Unlocking that potential depends upon continued institutional development and sustained reform efforts rather than any single policy announcement. Another point worth considering is inflation. Stable inflation supports purchasing power and contributes to confidence in the national currency. Central banks worldwide monitor inflation carefully because excessive price increases can reduce consumer confidence and complicate economic planning. Maintaining price stability remains one of the primary objectives of responsible monetary policy. The fiscal discipline also matters. Government budgets influence borrowing, public investment, infrastructure projects, and overall economic confidence. Sustainable fiscal management can strengthen investor perceptions, while excessive deficits may create additional challenges. Iraq's fiscal outlook, therefore, remains an important factor alongside monetary policy. International partnerships represent another element shaping Iraq's economic future. Cooperation with international financial institutions, regional trading partners, and foreign investors may contribute to improved infrastructure, technology transfer, and expanded business opportunities. Such developments can gradually strengthen economic fundamentals over time. Correlative values ultimately reflect confidence in an economy's productive capacity, institutional stability, and future prospects. While short-term fluctuations may occur for numerous reasons, long-term trends generally correspond more closely with underlying economic fundamentals than temporary market sentiment. For viewers following Iraqi Dinar developments, the most practical approach is maintaining realistic expectations. Significant economic reforms often progress in stages. Initial policy discussions may be followed by regulatory adjustments, banking preparations, technological upgrades, public education campaigns, and eventually implementation. Observing these developments collectively provides a more complete picture than focusing exclusively on individual predictions. It is also important to recognize that exchange rate discussions frequently attract strong emotions. Currency movements can affect businesses, households, importers, exporters, and investors differently. Responsible analysis therefore avoids sensational claims and instead examines available evidence carefully. When evaluating any forecast, viewers may find it useful to ask several questions. Is the information supported by official announcements? Does it align with established economic principles? Are multiple credible sources reporting similar developments? Does the forecast acknowledge uncertainty and alternative outcomes? These questions encourage balanced evaluation rather than emotional decision-making. The Iraqi economy continues evolving through ongoing reforms aimed at improving financial efficiency and supporting sustainable growth. Banking modernization, digital payments, enhanced regulatory oversight, infrastructure investment, and private sector development all represent components of this broader transformation. While progress may sometimes appear gradual, structural reforms often require patience because durable institutions are built incrementally. Short-term implications of the commentary are primarily psychological rather than immediately measurable. Increased public discussion surrounding financial education and monetary awareness may encourage greater attention to banking participation and economic literacy. However, actual exchange rate developments will continue depending upon official policy decisions and broader economic conditions. Long-term implications, if reforms continue successfully, could include stronger financial institutions, improved banking confidence, increased investment attractiveness, enhanced economic diversification, and greater resilience against external shocks. These outcomes would generally support economic stability, although they do not automatically imply specific future exchange rate levels. As always, responsible observers should continue monitoring official communications from Iraq's monetary authorities and government institutions, rather than relying solely upon forecasts circulating online. Economic policy evolves through official decisions, published regulations, and measurable indicators, rather than speculation alone. The Iraqi dinar remains closely connected to the broader story of Iraq's economic development. Improvements in governance, infrastructure, financial regulation, investment climate, and institutional capacity collectively influence long-term confidence. Viewing the currency within this larger economic context provides a more balanced understanding than focusing exclusively on short-term predictions. Ultimately, the commentary we examined today highlights themes of public education, supply and demand, and optimism regarding future currency strength. While these concepts have foundations in economic theory, the specific timing and magnitude of any future exchange rate developments cannot be confirmed in advance. Responsible analysis therefore distinguishes between opinion and verified information, while recognizing that sustainable currency performance depends upon broad economic fundamentals rather than isolated expectations. Thank you for watching today's Iraqi Dinar News Update. If you appreciate responsible, factual, and balanced analysis of developments affecting the Iraqi dinar and Iraq's economy, be sure to subscribe to the channel and enable notifications so you never miss future updates. We remain committed to presenting information in a professional, objective, and advertiser-friendly manner. Finally, please remember that this video is provided for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be considered financial advice, investment advice, or a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any currency or financial asset. Always conduct your own research and consult qualified financial professionals before making any investment decisions.